All right, so let's take a look at something that's a little bit more difficult. 3.7, number 22. All right, so they give us this curve right here, x to the fourth minus x squared y plus y to the fourth equals 1, and then they give us a point on that curve, or supposedly a point on that curve. They actually ask us to verify that point is on the curve. So step A, easy to verify the point is on the curve. Basically, you can take your xy values for the point, x comma y, and plug them in for the x's and y's. So that's a negative 1 to the fourth power minus negative 1 squared times 1 plus y, which is 1 to the fourth, equals 1. That's what we got to verify. Negative 1 to an even power is going to give me just plain 1. Negative 1 squared is 1 times 1 is 1. So that's minus 1. Plus 1 to an even power just becomes 1 equals, excuse me, I actually did something wrong there. Sorry about that. Pointer option, I don't know why I wrote 0. There we go. We're seeing if it's equal to 1 actually is what we're doing again. So pointer options, pen. And the question is 1 minus 1, 0 plus 1 equal 1. Absolutely. So it's true. So therefore, P lies on the curve. So that's a good sign. And then step B for us here would be to determine the equation for the line tangent the curve at P. So that's actually fairly simple too. We've got a point. So if we had the slope, we could do point-slope form, and we'd be able to do that. Well, the slope is the derivative, so we just got to figure out the derivative. Now, because this has x's and y's in it, we need to do implicit differentiation, which means we need to take the derivative of x to the fourth minus the derivative of x squared y plus the derivative of y to the fourth equals the derivative, taking the derivative of the whole thing here, of 1. All right, so a couple things here. First of all, I see a product rule, so I'm just going to write down the product rule up here so I don't forget it. It's f prime of x, g of x, plus f of x, g prime of x. I see a product rule there. I also see a chain rule here because this is a function to a fourth power. So a chain rule would say f prime of g of x times g prime of x. All right, so there's a product and a chain rule, and this is just a normal power rule, and this is just the derivative of the constant. So the rest of the stuff we've been able to do for several weeks now. Derivative of x to the fourth is 4x cubed minus the derivative of the product of these two. So f prime is 2x with the y left alone, plus f of x, which is x squared, y prime. So that's the g prime of x up here. So that's the second term there. And then we're going to add that to, so now we need to do a chain rule on this y to the fourth power. So derivative of the outside is going to be 4, leave the inside alone, y cubed, times the derivative of the inside, so that just becomes a y prime equals 0. So we're getting close now. Actually, the thing we can do now is, and it may or may not work here, but it would appear it might. It looks to me like I can probably plug in, and actually I'm gonna distribute this negative sign in here. So this will be 4x cubed minus 2xy minus x squared y prime plus 4y cubed y prime equals 0. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to substitute in my negative 1 and my 1. So negative 1 cubed is a negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Minus 2 times xy. Well, negative 1, the xy is negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. So times 2 is negative 2. So minus 2 is actually a plus 2. And then minus x squared, negative 1 squared is 1. So minus 1y prime, so I'm just going to call that minus y prime, plus 4y cubed. The y is 1, so y cubed is 1 times 4. This will be 4y prime equals 0. Okay, looking good so far. And it looks like I can actually solve this now. The negative 4 and the 2 become a negative 2. I'll add a 2, so that'll go over there. So that's equals 2. And then I'll take away 1 from this 4y prime, which will give me 3y prime. And I'll find out that y prime equals 2/3. That is my slope. Okay, that's going to be my slope. Now the nice thing is, we can use that slope in our point slope form. And remember, our point slope form, this is back from pre-calculus, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so y is going to be y minus y1. I should have put these ones down here. I'm sorry about that. This is bad notation. That looks like a y prime there. So let me fix that real quick. Eraser, get rid of that guy. Get rid of that guy. Yeah, we don't want those to look like primes, so they'll get the pen back here. Y minus y1, x minus x1. So y minus y1, well, y1 is 1, equals m, which we said was 2/3, times x minus x1, which is minus 1, so this becomes a plus 1. Alright, so y minus 1 equals 2/3 x plus 2/3. We're getting close. And if I want to get rid of this minus 1, I need to add 1 to each side. So I'm going to get y equals 2/3 x. And adding 1 to 2/3 is like adding a 3/3. So I'll call that plus 5/3 is what I'll do there. Plus 5/3. There's your equation. That's step B. Done.